Welcome. Another episode, Mitten State Sports Corner. I am Brett with 1T.
I'm Brett with 2 T's. Another big day in Detroit sports. Those gritty Tigzz did it again.
Somehow, some way, they always find a way.
Yeah. Now it's tied 1-1 coming back to Comerica on Wednesday. So my brother texted me this morning about looking at standing room tickets for Wednesday's game. He said they're only $80.
Man, I don't know how that's possible. I mean, this team hasn't had a playoff game in 10 years, and you're telling me you get a ticket under $100?
Let me peek at a ticket app real quick, just out of curiosity of what they jumped up to now that they won today.
Well, I bet it's $300-400 now. I bet. I mean, that's how the market works. But yeah, what a gritty win. I mean, the playoff Scooble is very much alive, not giving up a run this postseason so far in his couple starts. Has looked every bit much as the same player that we've seen all season. And of course, Kerry Carpenter, as the Magic would have it, came in and clobbered a 3-run home run to essentially seal the game for the Tigers. And, congrats to them. I mean, they really made a statement here going back to Detroit, tying this series. I mean, coming home with an 0-2 deficit would have, I think, would have changed the outlook a little bit here. But this team is one that I'd never count out regardless. So, I mean, I'm really excited to see what Comerica can do after their drought.
So for context, this morning when he texted me about it, he said $80 plus fees. Now they are at $110.
That's not a terrible jump after a win. They could double easy.
I'm sure tomorrow they will.
So what do you get though? You can't do standing room only. You can't see.
Good one.
So what do you do?
I'll give you that one. That was a good one.
Okay, fair enough.
Good one. I would stand at a chair.
That's fair. Yeah, but do you have to pay extra for the chair? I mean,
I would go find a bar stool and sit on it.
Is it like a pet fee? You know what I mean? Like you got to pay an extra monthly usage charge because
you're so lucky.
I
can't fly around some very colorful language right now.
You can't fly around at all, actually, whether it be language or physically. You are a human, so I'm not sure where you were going to get that anyway. But here's what we can tell you, folks: the Tigers have tied it up 1-1. The Guardians. They threw a really good game at us today. I mean, Boyd pitched a really good game.
It was a great game on both sides.
It was a pitcher's duel.
The defensive battle was great. Did you catch that?
The not catch?
Yes. What do you think about that? Was that in the 8th or 7th?
What bothers me is I want to say it was the angle where, you were looking from his right, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you can clearly see the trajectory of the ball. It changed. Like the ball clearly does a little dip and hop upwards into that glove. Well, that tells me that it's not hitting your glove because it would stop. That glove would absorb it, and it may roll backwards, but it's not bouncing up and into a glove, right? Like it's just not what a baseball is going to do. And I guess it's intriguing to me that in a moment such as that, where really, I mean, that could have easily changed the game.
Well, Tigers would have brought in a couple runs off of that,
right? I mean, that could have easily lost him the game
because he dove for that ball. If he misses that, and it goes past him, that's at least 2 runs.
Right.
But I think if they would have called it back to where no, it did hit the ground, I think that would have only scored the 1 because I think that would have. What would they have called that? Would they just called that a single?
Yeah, but think about it though. Like the way these pitchers were dueling, 1 run.
It's
the
huge,
game, right? Like you take out Kerry Carpenter's bomb, obviously, but
as you could see, you only needed 1 today.
It's a big call to make in playoff baseball. And I just don't think there's enough evidence to say that. I mean, that's what's interesting to me.
I think that's exactly where it came down to, where there were so many angles, and you really couldn't tell.
Yeah.
There wasn't one angle that said, "Oh yeah, that clearly hit the ground."
Yes.
Because it was so close, and obviously you got, just like in football, you got to go with the call on the field. It's the same with any sport. You got to go with the original call at that point because there's nothing that's definitive saying that it was different than what they called. So
well, lucky for them, they got a chance to get out of that inning, unscathed, where they, again, could have been much worse. So, sometimes sometimes I've always said, I mean, you'd rather be lucky than good, and obviously everybody on that field's got talent, but a lot of times when you get down to this type of baseball or hockey or football playoff time, that's what it comes down to. It comes down to the right bounce. It comes down to the right penalty call at the right time, or it always comes down to those key moments, and that could have been one of them. And thankfully for the Tigers, it wasn't.
Yeah, one key moment on the defensive side of the ball that I feel like really pumped them up, because I think it was the 6th inning or maybe even the 7th inning when Scooble's in a little bit of a jam.
Yeah,
because one got it to the wall and he let up like another single. They had 2
stand up double right out the gate.
Yeah, they had someone on third,
Yep.
and they turned that double play. and it was a super close double play, but they turned it,
Yep.
and obviously ended the inning.
About a
to
step
get him out
and
of
a
that
half,
jam.
maybe.
Yeah. That was huge because then after that, actually, Tigers' bats started to come alive a little bit because they were pretty stale going up to that.
And I almost felt like Skubal, he wasn't pitching poorly, but like he was starting to get some of his pitches contacted, and I'm thinking,
Mhm.
okay, like he might be leaving a little bit less out there, and no excuse. I mean, right, like is gonna take away from the fact that it's October baseball. All the energy is every pitch, and so I would understand that completely. And I'm thinking to myself, might be where things unravel here. And boy, they turn around, they slapped on that really good double play, and again, it really fired the team up. And look what happened. I mean, that comes down to those we've talked about 100 times, the 3 to 5 plays in any sports game
Mhm.
you're going to have. And the team that capitalizes on those 3 to 5 plays is who wins the game.
Especially in
That's just a fact.
playoffs.
Right. It's what it comes down to. It doesn't have to be your, Gold Glove, Silver Slugger. A lot of times it's your utility guy,
Yep.
your fifth starting pitcher, your relief man, like your closer getting a 3-run knock hit against him, like hasn't happened all season. They mentioned that he hasn't given up 2 runs in a single outing all season, and the Tigers did it in the playoffs. Like that is the stuff that they script up for World Series baseball, folks, and I'm hoping that the Tigers get there, but they have the makeup of this string of luck and talent and youth and all these things kind of happen at the right time that I'm very excited to see where they go.
Yeah, and there was that also. I think it was in the 8th. There was a grab at the wall by Parker Meadows, I believe.
That was a doozy.
Yeah, and how many times has he done that in the last month?
Man, I could count 6 to 10 times this season that he's had a top 10 Sports Center catch. I mean, and that doesn't even take away from the fact of his everyday catches. What an everyday catch to Parker Meadows is like a phenomenal catch for everybody else. Like he's just really impressive back there. And I think one of the best things this team did in the outfield is take Riley Green and take him out of center field. One of the best things this team could have done. He's very good out there, but he's injured too much.
One thing that I wish Michigan football would take notes, but
Don't get me started.
How good of these adjustments that the Tigers make have been paying off. So like you're pinch hitting at the right time, and you're obviously throwing different defensive players out there at the right time, and it's really starting to pay off for them.
Yeah, I mean a lot of it, comes down to A.J. Hinch and again pushing those buttons at the right time. I mean, Kerry Carpenter did not start this game.
No, he didn't.
He did not start this game. He had 2 at bats, and so I mean that's what we're talking about here. It's sometimes those minor adjustments that, to your point, Michigan football does not make, especially defensively. It wins ball games, folks. I'm here to tell you.
Carpenter came in for Malloy in the lineup.
Good move,
obviously. And obviously 2 at bats, and obviously just that killer home run right there in the 9th.
Yep.
What was so funny was on the broadcast, it's when they brought him in, and they were immediately saying, "It's like this is the exact guy you want at the plate right now," because they showed his stats of with runners in scoring position with 2 outs, and he's like the best in baseball.
He is.
And then, sure as shit, what happens 5 pitches later? Hits a 423-foot bomb to right field, where the second it connected on the bat, you're like, that thing's gone.
Well, and I guess shame on, Class A. You threw 3 sliders back to back to back.
That was one thing they mentioned. It's just like,
and that's something you can't do to a hitter like Kerry Carpenter. The Tigers learned that lesson with David Ortiz, if you remember, several years ago.
Oh, yeah, the 13 ALCS.
The same thing. You throw the same pitch over and
Joaquin
over and
Benoit.
over and over and over to the same hitters, and the good ones are going to make you pay,
and that was
especially in the playoffs.
Notorious Toy Hunter over the wall.
Yes.
As bad as a Detroit fan to see that clip, but to see Tory Hunter to go over the wall is pretty comical.
It's pretty awesome. Tory Hunter was one of my favorite Tigers of recent memory. Just like overall, that man was always smiling. Just a good ambassador.
He wasn't
for baseball.
around long.
No, but him and Granderson were some of my favorite ones.
I loved Granderson.
Granderson was one of my favorites. And they had Austin Jackson in there to kind of try to take his role. But man, nobody could beat Granderson and Hunter for me in the recent memories.
Yeah.
I liked what Victor Martinez did. You couldn't understand a word he said half the time. But I did like what he brought to the plate. But yeah, it was interesting. You saw Curtis on the MLB Network after the game.
It was funny you bring that up because I saw that too when they said his name. Nice.
Howdy doody. Look at this. That chick's surrounded by all legends at the plate. I mean, she had Granderson. She had Jimmy Rollins up there. She had Pedro Martinez. Who else?
Oh my God! When Pedro started talking, I just could not understand a word he was saying.
Well, you can't. You can't ever. I mean,
Oh,
never
it's
could then. You
like,
can't
oof.
now. But he could damn near throw the ball. I mean, holy
Mhm.
smokes.
But Scooble, another beauty of a game, just another
Gem.
typical Scooble game. Seven innings pitched, 3 hits, 8 strikeouts. And he was, I don't even think I actually, after the 5th inning, I don't think he got a strikeout because I remember them saying he got his 8th strikeout in the 5th inning.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
Is it unrealistic to expect this kind of outing from Scooble now?
I don't want to get too high on it, but it's coming up in like the best games to do it.
Right.
So but I don't want to get too high on it to where you expect it so that when he does have that one game, you get extra pissed off. Because as much as you would love to see it happen every single game, it just doesn't.
Yeah. Well, so far it's been really.
But so far, 2 outings in the playoffs and 2 gems.
Yeah.
To go along with his season of 18 wins and 99.9% certain a Cy Young season.
Him and Chris Sale are going to win the Cy Youngs this year.
So, but yeah, it's just when he's dealing on the mound and he puts so much, like, what's the word I'm looking for? He puts so much emotion into the game. Like if he gets a big out, and he's screaming,
the team
and you
feeds
see
off
the emotion.
that.
Oh, you love it.
Yeah,
and that's one thing that's so awesome about the teams like this that they go on this run. It's teams that are closer together, so they have that bond. So it makes everything flow so much better.
Oh, it's just like the glorious St. Louis team.
Yes, exactly.
Same kind of thing.
Precisely.
Right? 2019.
Yes, St. Louis Blues 2019 when they were in the cellar in January. That is a great song.
It is a great song. I almost think that it should be a theme song for one of our episodes.
Sure.
Because it just feels like it feels appropriate, like it just feels like something that needs to be done, So
I'm about it. So let's take so Tigers going 1-1 back to Comerica.
Yep.
So and Comerica is going to be rocking on Wednesday.
As it should be.
First playoff game in 10 years, and you're going in at a tied series too nonetheless. If they went in down 2, obviously the vibe there would still be great, but now that you're going in tied,
you got a chance to win it.
I think that takes it up a notch.
Well, it absolutely does. I mean, and now it's almost like, do you see the Tigers losing 2 at home? Even if they don't win them both, do you see them losing both at home? You don't.
I don't think so.
So no. It's almost like Tigers really aren't going to lose this series at home, which is awesome. Hopefully,
unbiased aside, I definitely do see this going to a fifth decisive game,
as it would be expected.
I think it's going to go there.
I agree.
But
come down to a Cleveland game.
Well, so we could still talk about how the game one stinker. I mean, we could. Touch on it
I'd
for a
rather
second.
them get it out of their system now. At least it's especially game 1. Better doing that like a game 5 where you're at 2-2 now, and now that deciding game 5 in a 7-game series, right? Like now you're down 3-2. Those sting. But to do it game 1, I mean, they could totally recover with Scooby on the mound next day. I got zero concerns, to be totally honest.
Well, and you look at it this way: it's like they had that rough first inning, but then they played okay throughout. Like the pitching got better as the game went on.
2-0 the rest of the way.
Cleveland's pitching was really good.
Yeah.
Tigers hitting couldn't do anything. So there's not really much to talk about as far as game 1 win on Saturday, but it was.
Felt like Javi Baez was the hitting coach that game.
Yeah, they just didn't look good. But
Boo.
what a hell of a series we got going over in Philly to start.
Castellanos, former Tiger, with the game winner, the knock. Did you see his son in the front row?
Yes,
he went over and what a moment, that'd be awesome. I gotta tell you, regardless what sport that would be, just to be able to share that with your son would be super awesome. Congratulations to Castellanos. I never had anything against him.
So it was this game came on right after the Tigers on Saturday, game 1, and Philly was rocking.
Yeah,
to start that series because it was like a 1-2-3, top of the first, and then Schwarber leadoff just bomb. It was going nuts, and they ended up losing 6-1. But that's beside the point. It's just like it's atmospheres like that you love to see in the playoffs,
Philly's
no matter
a good
what
atmosphere.
sport it is.
Always has been.
Well, Philly's just like Detroit, where their fans are very, very loyal.
Yeah, through the ups and the downs, we've had lots of those.
Oh, dude! Especially that's why it's so cool to see the Lions having success, the Tigers are having success. We will jump into someone else on the other side of Woodward here in just a second. The good old Red Wings. We'll jump to them in a second, but even Even the Padres are making it a little bit serious with the Dodgers. They're tied 1-1 right now. Padres gave it to them pretty good last
Well,
night.
it's not like the Padres are a bad team. They've
No,
got a ton
not
of
at
players
all.
on this team. I mean, that lineup is one of the best in baseball, if not the best in baseball.
So it's going to be a very interesting playoff because everything's tied 1-1 right now, aside from the Kansas City Yankees game that's going on right now. But we have Monday Night Football on over here.
Yep,
to our
KC
left.
playing the Saints.
But yeah, so good on Tigers. Great game. It was, just another typical Tigers win.
Yeah.
Just gritty Tigzz.
Yeah,
Gritty
but
Tigzz.
it really, I got to tell you, it feels a lot better considering Saturday was a letdown.
Oh, Saturday was a
Saturday
stinker.
night sucked.
Yeah, of course you had the Tigers had their game that wasn't good, and then we got to watch the glorious Michigan football.
That was tough.
Just
That's a winnable game too.
I was talking to you when you first show. I was like, I don't really want to talk about them because it's beating a dead horse at this point. We're talking about the same shit every damn week. With
Yeah,
them,
it's not going to change. I mean,
where we don't like the defensive scheme. We think the offensive playbook is just horrible because, Tuttle does bring somewhat of a bright spot. You could tell he was just the lack of reps was
That
what
was the
happened at
problem.
the end there.
I do give a small consolation. The offensive play calling was a little better.
With Tuttle, yes.
A little bit better. And I will tell you that Tuttle looked way more poised, calm,
I agree.
and more like a veteran quarterback should be. And rightfully so. For God's sakes, he's 25 years old. I mean, he's older than a few of the starting quarterbacks in the league, in the NFL. And so, I get it. But, it just kind of brings us back to the point that we talked about, that it was kind of Tuttle's job all along, and it threw a wrench in the plans when he got hurt. And the only question, I think we talked about this before during the game, was why does he not start the game? Why doesn't he start the game? I mean, you don't go down 14-0. All that momentum Washington had, the whole first half they just got obliterated. I mean, Michigan, aside from the last 8 minutes, 10 minutes of that second or first half, they looked awful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, terrible. And granted, they looked terrible at the very end of the game. The last 4 drives were pathetic. I think they put up like 22 yards, 25 yards on their last 4 drives, 2 turnovers. But the first 14 to 15 plays were really bad. And it just was, it brings you back to, like, is it preparation? Is it execution? Is it lack of talent? I mean,
I don't think it's lack of talent at all.
no, and it's not. I mean, what I'm scared for is what the hell does this defense look like next year without Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Will Johnson, Ernest Hausman, Deshaun Barham. I mean, Lord have mercy, who the hell is going to play defense for this team? I mean, they're not playing defense now.
Yeah,
but I think a lot of it is putting these good players in bad positions.
Mm-hmm.
Bothers me.
And it's something we've said every week. The scheme is horrible because you got these corners that are just so out of position all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know even know if they're out of position or they're actually in the position that the scheme says they're supposed to be in, but it just doesn't work
Well,
ever.
if that's the case, you got to change the damn scheme. Zeke Berry had
he's
100
horrible.
yards given up after contact yesterday.
There was that one play where that guy just spun off him like it was nothing, and he looked like he had mud boots.
Jair Hill, 7 out of 9 targets were completions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, he gave up Will Johnson, the worst pass interference penalty of his career in Michigan, hands down. But I think, folks, he's playing with an injury. I think he's playing with an injury that nobody wants to talk about.
Well, he left the USC game, and then he didn't even play against Minnesota.
And I don't think he's healthy. I got to tell you, I
probably
think what
not.
he's hurting with, I think something's broke.
Probably.
I think something's broken. He's not the same dude.
Or
because
he's got some strained muscle that's hampering him.
whatever it is, I feel for you, and it sucks to see a team at 4-2. Now, interesting enough, guys, is that this will not happen. But realistically, everything's still in front of Michigan. If they were to go out and somehow magically beat Oregon, not going to happen.
No.
Beat Illinois,
Not going to happen.
probably not going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Indiana, that's not a gimme. That is
I don't
that's
even-
on the road,
even
right?
Michigan State's
That's
not
scary.
a gimme at this point.
No. And Northwestern, shit, who knows? They got a sweet stadium. They might kick our ass this time.
Well,
I mean,
Northwestern comes here.
oh, we are at home. Yeah, you're right. Okay. So either way, it's like, I don't know. That's the only game that I feel like might be winnable. And it's like, but somehow if they found a way to win the next, all of the rest of their games, which is not going to happen, they would still be in the Big Ten championship game, most likely.
God.
That's scary.
And
It won't happen. I mean, but I can tell you, like you mentioned, this team will be a lot better with Tuttle at the helm. I think he's going to have his ebbs and flows. He hasn't played a lot of football.
That's the only semi-optimism I took from Saturday was that he did look better than, obviously, Orji or Warren.
I wish he would have started week one.
And then I think the offense just flows a lot better with him in there. But at the same time, you can't. If you're throwing the ball, you can't throw the Loveland every single time.
No.
And that's what was happening. He was out of probably all of Tuttle's throws, I think he was the target 90% of the time.
You know, I read something today that was it was hurtful. It really was. It hurt my feelings. Today, I read that Jeremiah Smith for Ohio State has more receiving yards and touchdowns than the entire receiving corps for Michigan.
That doesn't surprise me one bit.
That sucks.
I also read something today that if any Michigan receiver is going to be tough to hit over 100 yards for the year at this point.
That's scary.
And it's very much looking that way. And
well, Tuttle might change that a little. Tuttle might change that, but they got to get open, get some separation. I think some of the quarterback failures have been the receivers too.
Yeah, they don't get open. And
separation.
And you see it where Tuttle was actually Tuttle was a lot better with his progression of watching routes play out.
Yeah.
And you could tell none of them were getting open, so he would have to just chuck it to Loveland right there at the 5 to 10 yard check down. And it's just so frustrating.
It's hard to watch. And I almost feel like as fans, we're watching the growth of a team, the growth of coaching, and we're watching everybody learn on the fly. And, you know, coming off a national championship, that's not what you want. You know, this is supposed to be the time to build momentum. And I'll be very clear. I think if Jim Harbaugh stays for 3-4 years or whatever it was, right, like whatever it could have been, you know, this run would have probably continued. But not to the level that we just had. And I think Harbaugh knew that. There has not been a solid recruiting class in the last couple of years. It hasn't been top 10 even, right? Like, and I know they're a developmental program. I get that. But stars matter to some degree.
Mm-hmm. You still need the raw talent.
You still need the raw talent. And, you know, so I think Harbaugh saw that. But, you know, this team was expected to take some ebbs and some, you know, some lows. And they were expected to lose 2 to 4 games this year. And I guess as fans, shame on us for assuming otherwise and thinking that wasn't realistic because this team lost way too much to sustain what they had.
But at the same time, to look this incompetent on the field after 6 weeks,
it's hard. It's hard to watch.
I mean, this bye week couldn't come at a better time to where now you throw another quarterback in the realm here to get a week to figure that out.
I think there's a little bit of layout confusion in the program right now. They're waiting for Sharon to right the ship, and I think that, you know, behind the scenes, I can tell you that I think the recruiting philosophies have changed. I do think that we're getting a more progressive NIL collective going at Michigan. I really do. I believe that. I've heard that a few times. That takes a few years for those recruits to show themselves, to stick around as seniors, that's going to take some time. Harbaugh was not good his first 5 years here. Even you go further than that even, but he was not good at all his first 5 years here. Good records on paper, 10-2s, 9-3s, right? Like, looks good. Not the Michigan standard, but fine. Can't beat Ohio State, can't beat Michigan State. Those are things you're judged by. I don't see the seat being turned up even a little bit after this season if Michigan lost to both Michigan State and Ohio State. And I say that because I think that Michigan's going to be very patient with Sharon for about 3 to 4 years. After that 4th year, if there is not like major ascension, like we're seeing, here come the recruits. I see that, this is improved. We're seeing progress. Then I think that's where you start to get judged really hard on your big victories, right? Don't be a James Franklin. Don't go out and win all the games around the big ones, because that's what James Franklin does.
That's what Harbaugh did at first.
Right.
That was Harbaugh's first, I would say, 5 or so years.
But keep in
mind, they would beat everyone, and they would even whoop on Penn State at the time, but not when they went to Penn State. Yep. But they struggled with Michigan State, obviously, and we all know how Ohio State went at that time. There was
2 games, though,
and then they couldn't win a bowl game either.
There was 2 games that changed his tenure. in the first half of his Michigan tenure, right? Like the punt,
trouble with the snap,
the fucked up punt against Michigan State.
yeah, trouble with the snap,
Killed it. Okay, that's a different.
The spot against Barrett,
And the spot against Barrett were the two worst plays, and specifically the spot against Barrett, they're in the playoff.
Well, you also got to think of that Iowa game where they laid an egg.
Right. So, you could point to a couple things. I mean, that changes Harbaugh. So I think Harbaugh was showing a lot of promise, even in some of those losses. So, Sharon just needs to do that. Like, we can consider, hopefully, Texas is an outlier. They got beat in all facets of the game. We were there. It was ugly. Yeah, it wasn't good from the minute they started that game, and it really felt like a mercy was showed by the football gods because Texas had a touchdown taken away, a field goal taken away, a missed field goal.
They missed a field goal in the first quarter.
And it's like, shit, this could be a lot worse. So, I just, as long as we're seeing progress, again, I expected the bottom to kind of fall out this year, but let's see what Sharon can do to rally the troops. And if they can finish the year strong, Brett, what do you think is an acceptable record this time, I'm sorry, by the end of the season, considering what we know now?
So I really don't think, even if they do right the ship a little bit, they have enough to beat Oregon or Ohio State, considering how this defense has been rolling.
Mm-hmm.
But if you could, obviously, if you beat Michigan State, you beat Northwestern, you pull one out, you pull the games out against Illinois and Indiana, and then obviously you finish regular season with 4 losses. I mean, I think that's the ceiling at this point.
Okay.
Considering how the first 6 games have gone, and now you're going on your 3rd quarterback, and you still have no identity offensively,
right?
And then you just see your defense, who is notoriously good, just look very pedestrian and below average, especially in the pass game.
Do you have a problem with Kirk Campbell being up in the booth?
Yes,
I do too.
I don't like it, but this was one thing I was going to ask you is if, say, the offense still struggles throughout the rest of the year, they still can't figure it out, and then the defense still looks like the same defense every damn week where they can't protect the pass, and then they struggle to get pressure on the quarterback. I personally think both those coordinators need to be gone.
Well, I
don't think it's a matter of getting different players in there to fit.
No, I think
Wink
will be gone after this season.
I
really
so.
do believe. I think Michigan fans are already hurting them right now, and I'm one of them. I got to tell you, I told you this from the first week. The first week, I said this is going to be Don Brown 2.0. I can already feel it. Won't adjust. Stubborn as hell. I'm the godfather of this defense. Well, you know what? Minter and
Mike
McDonald both did it better, bud. I'm sorry, but they may have took your philosophies, but your philosophies weren't your own anyways. Okay? You borrowed them.
They took
too.
them and made it better.
They just made them better, and you know what else they did? They adjusted. So when it didn't freaking work, you adjusted. You don't just go, let's just keep trying it and see what happens. Like this whole like 5 yards off a receiver shit bothers the hell out of me. In key moments, 3rd down, and we're 5 yards off the freaking
team,
receiver.
By the way,
God,
they're the worst.
It's ridiculous.
It seems like every time a team has like a 3rd and 7 or more against Michigan, they convert it every time because they
look how they're playing defense.
It's because the receivers get easy separation because they're not even on them to begin with.
Yeah.
So they just run to the sticks. They have an open receiver, and then you'll have Jahir Hill or even Makari Page at this point literally just watch him catch the ball and then attempt to tackle.
Yeah.
So it's just, I definitely do think, Wink needs to go. At this point, I don't care if he even rights the ship towards the end of this year. I still think he needs to go because you could tell his philosophy is just not. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And then with Kirk Campbell, it's
not working.
No, it's not. And
I'm sorry, but college is very much a situation where you can change coordinators every year until you get it right.
And it's just not.
I need Sharon to go out and get somebody that's offensively gifted, right? Like somebody that is proven by a head coach. Like I hate to say it, but like a Chip Kelly situation, right? Like he hasn't had major success here, but very much proven to be very offensively gifted.
Yes,
has done very well with Ohio State this year. And, even at Cliff Kingsbury, like those kinds of guys, Lincoln Riley's of the world, right? You got to have those guys, and I think that's what Michigan needs. And what's interesting is they're not an offensive team, but I don't think they're going to be a defensive-minded team for a couple of years until some of these boys grow up, truthfully. So I think they're going to need to do something on offense and get creative because Kirk Campbell right now looks like he's coaching youth football.
It's a very bad look.
Yeah.
Very bad look. I don't know. I'm just not the biggest fan of it, and it's just I'm very over the season already, if I should say. Like, obviously, I still love Michigan, and I'll still watch them every damn week.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's getting very
hard to talk about the same things every week.
Exactly, and that's what I
Yeah.
was saying when we first got on. I was just like, I'm so sick of talking about the same shit every damn week with this team.
Well, let's talk about something different. I got something for you.
Let's hear
Are
it.
you ready? So, I happened to see our text message thread with our team this weekend.
Oh, don't. So you want to get me mad again?
Yeah, just for a second.
You suck.
So we forfeited our game this weekend, friends,
Mm-hmm.
because we didn't have enough participation. It was a 10:45 game on a Sunday. Okay, folks got to work the next day. I understand, but I'll be damned if we didn't start the day with like 9. And as that day progressed, it got worse and worse and worse. And it almost seemed like everybody was not trying to play that game from the start. And I wonder if this is going to be a theme the rest of the season.
It better not.
Because I'll kill somebody.
It better not.
Don't be like that.
It really better not. That's all I gotta say.
Team Mom over here is going to be upset.
I already am. You know how embarrassing it is to send a text in the second week of the year saying, we got to forfeit because none of our guys are showing up
Yeah.
on the second game of the year.
This sucks. Yeah,
Just
it's
not-
just it's waving the white flag, the old Arizona Coyote. You know what I mean? Here we go, going to Utah.
So that's my take. I don't really want to get too much into it.
That's all right. You don't have to.
Yeah, I just
But
next
you
time
were gonna play though.
I was gonna play
You were gonna play. Your hand is magically healed.
somewhat, but I was gonna try it out for the sake of we needed guys. So I wanted to give myself another week, but the fact that we needed guys, I was gonna try it.
Yeah. Well, that worked out for you.
But as the day went on and how everything progressed, it's just like, yeah, you know what? I'm not gonna go out there with 6 guys.
Yeah.
And
5 and a half.
and
really.
put my hand at bigger risk at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. We just can't roster half a player, so we better get out there.
I don't
But
know. Let's talk about a better hockey team than us.
Red Wings.
Red Wings
Let's go.
finalized their roster today. Today was the 5 p.m. deadline to submit your final 23-man roster.
Opener on Thursday at 7 against Pittsburgh.
So, as predicted, DeBrincat, Larkin, Raymond, Kane, Comfort, Tarasenko, Rasmussen, Kopp, Fisher, Bergeron, Valeno, Mott. But the wild card is that extra forward that they like to carry, who I know a lot of Red Wing fans will agree with me on this, and I know one of my buddies who is a big Red Wing fan texted me about it last night.
Yeah.
Albeit I'm actually okay with who they picked up, but at the same time, I think we should have given it to someone else. So obviously Austin Watson, he was in on a PTO for the preseason. He did play damn well, and he adds a nice grit to the lineup, as we saw in that preseason game where for some reason he got kicked out. But he's on a 2-way deal. But I would have loved to give that extra spot to Marco Kasper, who looked like he took the next step up to make the NHL roster and make an impact.
Yeah.
But he got sent to Grand Rapids, albeit he can still be called up between now and Thursday.
Red Wings do this a lot, though.
Mm-hmm.
I always have.
But it opens the door that he will be first call-up all year.
Yeah.
I hope so, because Austin Zarnik's gone, so he can't be first
Thank
call-up anymore.
God.
So,
I
our
am
favorite
so
player.
excited.
But at the same time, I wish we would have given it to Marco Kasper, and I
Or-
wish we would have put him. I mean, he's a top 6 player. Maybe you push Comfort down 1, or you put Kasper in Comfort's spot to play between Tarasenko and Kane, because we did see that line together in the preseason a couple times.
But they're going for the veteran presence.
So, but
I think the youth was going to get him to the chip.
it definitely is. We saw like we talked about the Tigers. They brought the youth up and see what
Lions
happened.
too.
And then I don't know. This was the one time where I definitely disagreed with an Eisman decision as far as the roster goes.
It's early.
But obviously they
But
know
you know
more.
they do
They know
this,
more
though.
than we do.
The first week or two of the season is evaluation time to see how those bubble players, and they rotate them around to find the combinations. So it's very possible that Watson maybe comes out a little flat in the first couple games, and he's right back down, and they bring him up. I mean, it's
Well,
as long as he's on the bubble, I think he knows he's got a good shot of playing this year.
My whole thing is he's going to be scratched that first game. There's no way no way he gets in the lineup. But at the same time, if Casper is in that situation, he gets scratched too. So might as well put him in Grand Rapids where he will get top line minutes. That's the only bright side to it, where he does have somewhere to go where he will play top line minutes where he deserves.
Yeah,
but he deserves it in the NHL, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, it's just one of those things though. Like, who do you take out? You know what I mean? And that's the same thing. Like, it's a good problem to have. Red Wings didn't have that problem a couple years ago. You know, where they had too many players for the roster spots. It's nice to see they flipped the script now. But I kind of like to agree. I mean, I think that between Casper and Danielson, these guys deserve their shot. Edvinsson, obviously, we're happy about him. You know,
Yes.
he's deserved a shot. But there's others down there, too, that rightfully you could say, you know, Missouri is another one. I mean,
Yeah, he played good.
he's played really well. And
But
you
he's
know,
definitely still probably one more year away.
yeah, but, you know, like, there's a lot of these guys that, you know, if this was 3-4 years ago, I think they're playing on the Red Wings, right? And that's part of what they would do is they would grow with these kids, and they're at a spot now where they've got some veterans in the lineup, and hopefully some guys that'll get them to the playoffs. But they're going to need these kids throughout the year. Injuries are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to need these guys to come in and play their 10, 15, 20 game, but every, like, month roles, you know, and it's going to get them through the season so these guys can rest up for the playoffs. And if that's the only purpose they serve this year, I'd still say it's a winning one to get them that experience for next season.
All right, so now we'll jump down to the deal a bit because you brought in Edvinsson into the conversation.
Yeah.
So this is what the projected lineup is going to be, and it's pretty much the exact same lineup we saw at the end of the season, where it's Sherratt Sider first pair, Edvinsson Petrie second pair, and then Mata with the Gosses pair replacement of Gustafsson, and your extra D is Albert Johansson.
Yeah. Why is Petrie on the second defensive pairing?
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know,
seriously.
but so
No
as far as
Justin?
transactions
No.
go for the D, Justin Hull was waived. He did clear waivers, and he did get sent to Grand Rapids, which
He's a
that is
depth
one I
piece.
do agree with.
I
Obviously,
agree.
that signing was
That was
now,
shaky at best.
It's now making its presence known that it was a very terrible signing, which we all were very hesitant when we saw it happen last summer.
Yeah. He kind of reminds me of Sherratt, to be totally honest with you. Sherratt offers a little more, but not
Because
much.
he brings more physical into
But
it.
to me, they're the same kind of, like, these are a couple signings that were blunders on Yzerman's end, in my opinion. He's trying to shore up the defensive core. I get that. I think there's a couple pieces down in Grand Rapids that could help us as much as Petrie. I mean, I've talked about 100 times. I'm not sold on Petrie in the lineup. I have no problem with him himself. It's just his play isn't up to snuff. It's not where we're at right now. There's a reason that we got him for like a bag of potatoes. I mean, he had no value. Hasn't had value in years.
Yeah. And then we are going to go with the three-headed monster goalie lineup too.
Yeah.
Which was, I mean, yeah, we saw that coming. They're going to probably rotate for sure. I bet you Talbot gets the start game one.
Yep.
And then I think it'll be a rotating to see who's got the hot hand rolling.
Yep.
Albeit Jack Campbell obviously is now in the player assistance program, so he won't be in Grand Rapids to start.
I
But
doubt
they
we see him this
they
year.
did sign Malcolm Subban to go to Grand Rapids
That's
to
an
back up
interesting
Kosa.
signing.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. Not upset
Which
about it.
I mean, he is a career AHL goalie, so
That's
he
right.
is a serviceable backup for Kosa in Grand Rapids.
Right.
So
I'd take being a career AHL goalie. I'm terrible. I have 17 goals in 2 games on Wednesday nights.
but
That's not going to get me in Toledo.
no, that's not even going to get you in those like other weird ass leagues that are around nowadays too.
I want to be like Luongo and just show up for a men's league hockey game and be like, oh, God, look at.
You do show for men's league hockey games though.
I tried to last night, but Team Mom couldn't get them together. Okay,
Hey.
so as we wrap up here, I just want to say one thing, Brett.
Yes.
It sounds to me like you may be sick.
Me?
Yeah. How'd that happen?
You.
No, it wasn't me. Definitely wasn't me. I had an episode last week
I'm all right.
that
I'm sick of
took a lot of me.
I'm sick of people saying they won't show up to hockey games.
Yeah, it's got Brett down in the dumps.
Mhm.
So turn this frown upside down, friends. Let's show up to hockey for once.
Well, it was a tough sports weekend. Michigan lost. Tigers didn't do the best on Saturday as well, but they brought it back today. The Lions were also off, so that this week, so that was meh.
Yeah.
And then seeing some of these Red Wings decisions were just like, and then obviously our team had its episode on Sunday, so
Oh, is
it was
that
a
what they call
tough sports weekend.
Is that what they call it? Episode?
I mean, you could put a lot of terms on it, yeah.
I figured. Yeah. Okay.
I texted a couple teams on Sunday, be like, "Hey man, do any couple of your guys would like to skate again?" They're like, "Well, what time?" And I told them, "They're yeah, no."
Yeah. Nobody's interested at 10:45 start time.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
I wasn't
But we
upset
won't
about how we
have a
played the
late
game.
game this coming week, is from what I'm told. Which, like, oh, cool, great.
Now we'll probably get the excuses.
Nah, whatever.
Oh, it's gonna be too early. Cuts into my day.
Oh, the Lions are playing. I can't show up. Because wait,
You'll
don't the
fly
Lions
out 2 weeks later.
Blake?
Oof.
Don't the Lions have a night game
This week?
in Dallas? I believe so.
Is it an 8:15 game or something?
I think they do have the Sunday night game against Dallas.
Yeah,
Let me
could be.
double
It is
check on
Dallas,
this.
so
Yeah, of course, in Jerry World. But the
Ugh.
Dallas did lose last night. No, Dallas did win. My bad. They were
Dallas-
losing when I fell asleep.
Dallas did get the walk off, if you will.
Hmm. But
Touchdown.
positive sports news. I did win fantasy again, so I'm 4-1 to
Who'd
start
you
the year. We call him Doc. We had a good battle. He had Lamar
Doc
Jackson.
Rivers? So was he
No.
up 3-1 in the playoffs and faltered, or what happened?
No,
Oh.
he hasn't even won yet this year. But
Damn. Well,
he
that's
had
upsetting.
Lamar Jackson going yesterday, so he had a great start to the day.
Yeah.
But I had Jamar Chase, who had a great game. Cam Akers stepped in well because Joe Mixon was out. Nico Collins had a decent game before he went out,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a good defense go yesterday too. So I had a more well-rounded lineup yesterday that got me there.
Yeah.
He had a couple players that chipped in some good points that kept it close. Was mainly it.
Fair. Well, once again, guys, appreciate you joining us. This is a wrap up of another episode of Mitten State Sports Corner. Week, 6 now, I guess it would be, considering.
I have no idea where we're at now.
Oh, it's going with the Michigan season. It's going to have to be technically, week 6? Is that what this is?
Well, we put out a couple prior.
Whatever week we're in, this is what week it is.
Well, yeah. So
We don't know.
this
what
episode will
day
be
it is.
releasing on Wednesday. Obviously, the Tigers will be in Game 3 at Comerica
Yeah.
Park that same night. So let's go Tigers. Let's bring in another.
Let's
Bring in another
go.
one. Let's put Cleveland on the brink. Let's put Cleveland on the brink.
And let's get a pre-win for the Red Wings on Thursday night.
Yes.
How about that?
Yeah. Let's send Detroit into a frenzy. So then, because the home opener on Thursday for the Red Wings, there's a lot of buzz in town.
Yep. And there'll be a lot of buzz people in town, too, for that one.
Oh, isn't there?
It's going to happen.
Well, yeah, we want to thank you guys for tuning in for another week. Obviously, some good things happening, so hopefully bye week for Michigan this week. So good on that. That's great timing for it. Tigers are starting to roll again. Red Wings start, and then the Lions are also back. So it's going to be a good week.
Yeah. Gonna see what happens here. Hopefully we don't get let down by the opener of the Red Wings, which I don't think we will. I think
There's
gonna come
82
out
of
hot.
them, so it's whatever.
I think they're going to come out hot.
If they look just competent, I'll be happy. Because you got to look at it. There's 82 games,
Mm-hmm.
so you can't base it off game one.
Not true. You can do a lot of things based off of game 1.
You
Just
can
watch
have your
Sports
own
Center.
opinion.
All right, friends. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you. This is why we do it. I'm Brett with 1T.
Brett with 2 T's. You all have a great week. We'll talk to you on Friday.
All right. Peace.